G'day students, this lesson is from chapter 1B of the textbook. It's a bit of a multi-part MLO. Firstly, we're going to have a little bit of a look at rounding cash money amounts. And then we're going to look at writing rate statements, which are super important in financial maths. We'll simplify those rate statements and we'll use them to solve problems. It looks like a lot, but really these ideas flow on quite well from each other. Alright, so when you're rounding money, particularly in cash amounts, what we need to keep in mind is that the smallest amount of money you can pay someone in cash in Australia is 5 cents. It's a long time since we had 1 cent coins out there. So that means if you see an amount that's not in even 5 cents amounts, then you need to be able to round it so you know how to pay the correct amount. Now, students often find this a little bit confusing because the way you round these cash amounts is a little bit different to the way that you've maybe rounded decimals beforehand. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Brittany buys a product with a price tag of $28.33. Now, what you might want to do with this, if you apply the rounding skills you've learned before, is you might say, well, we look at this 3 here and it's less than 5, so we're going to cut that off and this will become $28.30. That is not how we round these cash amounts. What we do is this, is we look at what are the amounts that you could pay with cash. So you could either pay $28.30 or $28.35. And you ask yourself, which one of these two amounts is this closest to? So think about that for just a moment. And of course the answer is this is closest to $28.35. So that's the amount you pay and that's how we round this. Alright, now your turn. Pause the video here and have a look at these problems and we'll come up with answers in a moment. Alright, again, pause the video, check your answers. If any of them don't agree, make sure you go back and check your thinking and your working to look for errors. Alright, this is a pretty straightforward slide. What this is showing us is basically just getting a little bit of practice working with financial amounts and decimal numbers. Basically, we work with money amounts in exactly the same way that we normally conduct operations with decimal numbers. You could just do these sums on your calculator and just check in with the answers on the next slide. So just pause here, quickly run through those, and then you can check your answers. Alright, and there's the answers for that. Again, just pause it. This slide is really just a quick check, just to make sure that you're doing these sums right. Alright, rates. A rate is a comparison of two related quantities. So you use rates all the time in normal life. Maybe you're talking about the speed of a car in kilometers per hour, or if you're into sport, you might use some metric of goals per game, or whatever sport you're into probably has some sort of rate in it. In finances, we use rates a lot. For instance, you might be paid. You want to know how many dollars per hour you earn, or if you're buying things, you might want to know how many dollars per kilo you're paying, and so on. This website here has quite a good little page on rates if you want to read up a few more examples. Alright, have a look at this example from the textbook. We're going to learn to do something called writing a rate statement. So here's that question. Write this statement as a rate with the appropriate unit. So $32.50 in each hour. They don't tell us what the situation is, but we can just take that information as it comes. Now, this is an amount of dollars in an amount of time. $32.50 in 1 hour, but we write that as $32.50 with this slash. It means per hour. Maybe just pause that slide for a moment and read that example in a bit more detail. All right, have a look at these examples. Your turn to write these as a rate. So what you're looking at for these is you want it to be written in, if we go back, you want your final answer in this format here. Just pause that slide now. And here's our answers. We've got $30 per hour. We've got dollars per litre, dollars per hour again, and so on. Just pause that slide and check you've got those written correctly. So check your formatting. All right. Rate statements need to be simplified before they're really any use to anyone. So let's look at this example. If student A ran 340 meters in 38 seconds, then we could write that as a rate as 340 meters per 38 seconds. And if student B ran 400 meters in 41 seconds, that would be 400 meters per 41 seconds. Now, it's a bit hard to tell from these rate statements who was the fastest. And that's why you would actually never write a rate statement like this. When you're writing rates, this second number here should always be 1. So what we want to know is how many meters they went in 1 second, not how many meters in 38 seconds. Now, the way we go about simplifying these rates so that our second number is 1 is we divide both of these numbers by 38. I'll say that again. We take our second number here and we divide both of these numbers by that number, in this case 38. So 38 divided by 38 will give us 1 second here. And if we take 340 divided by 38, we'll get 8.95. So then our simplified rate is student A ran at 8.95 meters in 1 second. Now we're going to do the same thing with our second rate. We're going to take our second number and we're going to divide this number by the second number. We're going to get 8.95. Oh, no, we're not. It's a bad copy and paste. That should be 9.76. All right. So if we take our 400 meters in 41 seconds, we divide our first number by the second number. So 400 divided by 41 gives us 9.76 meters per second. Now, when we compare these two rates, student A ran 8.95 meters in 1 second, student B ran 9.76, and it becomes clear to us that student B is much faster when we have these simplified rates. Here's another example straight from the textbook. I won't talk you through it, but I will ask you to pause the video and read through this and see if it makes sense to you. And now have a go at using the same technique to simplify these rates. So the first thing you want to do is actually write your rate statement. So for this one here, if I can find my pen. All right, so for this one here, this is $42 in 8 hours. Now, that's not a proper rate because our second number here isn't 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide both of these numbers by 8. And we're going to get 42 divided by 8, which doesn't go evenly. So that's going to give us a decimal, which will be 42 divided by 8 is 5.25. $5.25 per 1 hour, because 8 divided by 8 is 1. Alright, so pause the show here and have a go at the rest of those problems yourself. Alright, and here's the answers for that. So again, pause the video, check all your answers. Make sure again that you've formatted them correctly with the correct units and that you've got the right numbers here. Right, this question here, question 5, is interesting because it asks you to round each amount to the nearest cent. Now, when they say to round to the nearest cent, they really just mean give your answer rounded to the second decimal place. So use exactly the same skills that you used in the previous slide and make sure you round your answers to the second decimal place. Just pausing the video now. And here's your answers. As you can see, they're all rounded to 2 decimal places where need be. This one doesn't need rounding. Pause the video, check your answers. Alright, now the reason we're doing these problems with rates is because they're very useful in real world scenarios. So in this situation, Raphael works as a courier, he delivers parcels and he earns $18.50 per hour. I want you to go through this problem and write the rate statement and then use that rate statement to solve these word problems here. Pausing the video now. Alright, check your answers against our answers here. Raphael earns $18.50 per hour. That's our rate statement, which means if he worked 20 hours, we take that number, we multiply it by 20, he should earn $370. Going in the other direction, if he earned $684.50, we divide that number by $18.50 and we find that he worked for 37 hours. If you didn't get any of those answers, just pause the video now and go back through and try those questions again. Alright, there's a lot of different ways to be paid, and one of them is a salary. Salary is when you get paid an amount over the year. That means that the amount you earn in that year is basically fixed, but if your job requires you to work extra hours, you don't get paid for those extra hours either, most of the time. Have a look at this problem for Lena here, who earns a salary of $66,548. Just pause the video on that. Alright, so we write Lena's salary as a rate statement. She earns that amount in 1 year.